Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into something, well, fascinating. It's a local survey that shows how just a handful of pretty ordinary green spaces can turn into these incredible biodiversity hotspots, literally right under our noses.
All right, let's just start with one number. It's kind of astonishing. 43.3%. Now, you're going to want to remember that number because it's the key to, well, everything we're about to dive into.
Yeah, you heard that right. So get this. They looked at 50 different sites, and nearly half of all the species they found, we're talking birds, insects, flowers, you name it, were crammed into just 6 small spots. And here's the kicker. Those 6 sites, they're only 12% of the total area they looked at. Insane, right?
So that just begs the question, right? How can so few places hold so much life? I mean, what makes this little cluster of sites so incredibly important for nature? How does that even work?
Well, the answer, as it turns out, isn't about what keeps these places separate. It's all about how they're connected.
And this right here, this gets to the very heart of the matter. You see, where we humans see boundaries, property lines, roads, fences, all that stuff, nature sees something completely different. It sees a network, an interconnected landscape. For wildlife, these aren't really barriers. They're just parts of a green highway that lets them move around freely.
And that brings us to this really cool idea, a biodiversity network area. Basically, it's when a whole bunch of different sites, all close to each other, start acting like one single massive ecosystem. Each spot brings something unique to the table, and they all work together. It's a classic case of the whole being so much more than the sum of its parts. Okay, so let's actually go see what this looks like in the real world. We're going to take a quick tour of some of the key spots in this cluster just to see what each one contributes to the team. All right, our first stop, you might not expect this one. It's the Sidmouth Cemetery. Now, technically, it's what you'd call a brownfield site. But believe me, it has become this absolutely remarkable sanctuary for wildlife. So, why a cemetery? Well, it's because parts of it have just been left alone for decades. Nobody's mowing, nobody's spraying, and that has created the absolute perfect conditions for rare fungi, like these amazing multicolored wax caps, to just thrive. Even the old gravestones themselves have become these little tiny ecosystems, totally covered in all sorts of lichens. Okay, next up we've got a really powerful story of a community-led comeback. And it's a great reminder that it's not always just about leaving nature alone. Sometimes, it needs a little helping hand from us. So this pond, the Knapp Nature Pond, it was basically gone, just choked out by this one invasive plant. But then, and this is the cool part, a bunch of local volunteers put in over 100 hours of work. They cleared everything out painstakingly and replanted native species. And the result? It's now this vibrant, thriving freshwater habitat. In the summer, it's just buzzing with newts and frogs and dragonflies. It's a total comeback story. All right, now let's talk about the heavy hitters, the 2 biggest sites in this cluster, the Knapp and the Knowle. You can really think of them as the ecological powerhouses for the whole network. And what's so cool is how they're like perfect teammates. The Knapp, it's all about bramble, scrub, and wildflowers, so it's a paradise for insects. It has the highest insect diversity. Then you have the Knowle with its big, mature parkland trees, and that's where the birds love to hang out. It's the bird hotspot. And crucially, both of them have these little pockets of super rare, ancient grassland. So if we zoom back out for a second, you can really start to see how all these individual spots fit together to create something really special. A true mosaic of different habitats. And this chart, wow, it really puts it all in perspective. Hey, remember that number I told you to hold on to at the beginning? 43.3%? Well, here it is again. This tiny little cluster of sites, just 12% of the land area they looked at, is punching way above its weight class. It's supporting over 43% of all the species they found. That is an absolutely incredible ecological return on investment.
This is exactly what we mean by a mosaic of habitats in action. Each patch has its own specialty, right? The Knowle is the bird place. The Knapp is for insects. The cemetery is the go-to for fungi and lichens, and other spots like the Bickwell hedgerows are hotspots for mosses and ferns. Because you have all this variety, The network as a whole can support a much, much wider range of life than any one place could on its own.
And these connections, they're not just some abstract idea. They are literal lifelines for the animals that live here. You've got these ancient hedgerows that snake through the sites, and for bats, including the super rare lesser horseshoe bat, they're basically green highways. They let them commute safely from their roosts to their favorite feeding spots, all under the cover of darkness.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What does all this really mean? It's simple, really. Hidden nature can have a massive impact.
I think the most powerful lesson from this whole story is that incredible ecological value is often hidden right in plain sight. You know, we don't always need these huge, untouched, pristine nature reserves. Sometimes it's a connected network of small, local, even kind of ordinary-looking spaces. Your local park, a cemetery, a little pond, an old hedgerow that can be absolutely critical for helping nature bounce back.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. It kind of makes you want to look at your own neighborhood a little differently, doesn't it? To look at the local parks, the gardens, those forgotten corners, and just wonder, what hidden networks, what interconnected natural wonders are just waiting to be discovered, right where you live?